Welcome back to the Scrapyard Guys, Rockslide here, and we are back with another Marvel Snap video. Today we're going to have a look at some of the questions that the developers have been answering in the official Marvel Snap Discord. I'll leave a link to the Discord down below. If you like this game, you should definitely go jump on this Discord. There's so much information in there, people theory crafting, deck building. As I said, there's questions, there's updates, there's all sorts going on in here, so it's a really good resource. Obviously, before I go any further, make sure you hit the like button if you like Marvel Snap content, subscribe if you want to see more videos. I really appreciate it. It helps small content creators like me grow. Other ways to support me, you'll find lots of links down below. Let's get into it. There are hundreds of questions in here. I'm just going to pull out some of the ones that I find interesting, and hopefully you will too. So let's go. Alright, first one here is, will there be an option to change the in-game name in the future? I think this is a good question actually. Ben Brode has just said yes. Very simple. There will be an option to change your name in the future. That's good. If you, like me, sometimes you regret the decisions that you've made early on, so happy days, you can change your name. Are there any plans for other modes? Story, more than 2-player, even mini tournament like Hearthstone Battlegrounds, something absolutely crazy that uses the same cards but in different ways. Again, Ben Brode has replied, we have a lot of cool stuff planned. This is just the beginning. This makes me super excited. I'd love to see 2v2. I'd love to see PvE content where you have to build random decks to like defeat the enemy because they have specific win conditions. That would be super cool. Maybe like one location and you have to build a deck of 4 cards or something crazy like that, or 6 locations and you have to build a deck of 36 cards. That would be bananas. I'd love to see stuff like that. Sorry if I missed, but will there be a clan friend features along with non-ranked games? This is a good one. I like this. You know, the social aspect of the beta so far has been a bit lacking, but Ben Brode has said we'd love to make some rad social features at some point. This to me means that there's nothing really in the short term, but could be long term. I wouldn't be holding out hope for this specific feature. I think he would be more specific if he had something ready to go in the pipeline. Are you aiming to make the game more bad phone friendly? My phone isn't even that bad, but the tutorial game Fear vs. Doom won't even start. I can't even access the menu to all but the settings on low. This is a tough one for some people who can't maybe afford like the top level phones. Ben Brode has said we are continuing to optimize. Hopefully things will improve for you. There will always be devices below min spec though. That is true. Like there will always be the most basic of basic phones that just are there for phones. They're not there for much else. There's, you know, it's hard to develop for like literally the most brick phone there is out there. That's got to be a real challenge. So, but I have to imagine, like, I'd love to know what this person's phone is that can't run this game. I know it's in beta, but when the full game gets released, I wonder what the minimum spec you need to run this game. I don't know. I'm not a developer, so don't quote me on any of this. Is there a reason for the past mission chapters being time gated? I found it very easy to complete the first 2 chapters within 2 or so days, and it seems progression is largely slowed by the lack of high XP missions while we wait for the next chapter. This does drive me crazy. It does mean that you can be completing the later stages in your chapter, but you can't because they're time gated for the next day or the day afterwards or the day after that. Ben Brode said we didn't want to be a system that just peters out after 2 days. Ideally, it's something fun to interact with over the course of the month. Also, if you come late, there's a natural catch-up mechanic. Time gating the missions make it more even experience between players who play a little and players who play a lot. I actually kind of like that response, I suppose. I hadn't thought that far ahead. You know, players who want to play a little bit every day means that, you know, if you only play once every 3 days, means you can complete all the tasks at one go. But if you're playing every single day a lot, if you had access to all the chapters, you'd blow through all that stuff really quickly and accelerate further ahead. This way you can't accelerate as fast as the player who's playing casually, which I guess, you know, people will disagree if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it kind of makes sense in his head, obviously. Out of curiosity, you've stated before that you are still working on balancing cards. Do you have a plan for how frequently you want to implement balance patches in the beta or in the full release? Ben has said, right now, we will need to wait for a new client patch. We're targeting patches every 3 to 4 weeks, but obviously stuff comes out that causes a change in plan sometimes. No doubt. 3 to 4 weeks, once a month, that could be, if somebody breaks a card and you have to wait a month for it to be fixed, that could be very frustrating and dominate the meta. But you'd like to imagine if a card gets so broken and they get enough data in to show that maybe a specific card has a bananas win rate, that they would change it pretty quick. But, you know, we've all been part of games that we've seen broken stuff and it not being changed for a while. So I guess it all depends on how mad you get when something does break the game. This is a good one. I like this for longevity of the game. How do you feel about the design space that's been created with the mechanics you've done so far? Do you think there's enough space in the framework you've created to sustain creating new, cool, novel cards for years to come? That is something we all want to know. Is this game going to last for a long time? We've all, you know, when you spend a lot of time in game, you want to know that there's a plan for the future, and that, you know, that time isn't wasted, so to speak. I know that's a weird concept, but I mean, if you're having fun, is it time wasted and the game stopped? Ben said, yes, absolutely. Partially because we already have so many designs that aren't in the game yet, but we also have not had trouble coming up with new designs and mechanics. I think they've said this before, that there are like lots of ideas in the background that they have that are ready to go. They just haven't put them in the game, and that's good to hear. Like, you know, you don't want to design yourself into a certain way. You want to make sure that there's room for growth in other directions, or you know, otherwise you're sort of limiting the game to end up in one narrow focus point, and you don't want that generally. Oh, this one is huge for me. Have you thought about a cancel end turn button? Sometimes I hit the end turn, and then before my opponent ends their turn, I think, oh no, I want to do this instead, but that's not possible. Currently, once you hit end turn, it's locked in. I have this problem so often that I actually realize I've made a huge bad mistake, or there's a better play after I've hit end turn, and I still have to wait for my opponent. I'm like, oh, I wish I could just undo it. But luckily, Ben said we want to do this so bad. We have it on our list to take a look at what is possible here. Again, it's on the list. I'm not expecting it anytime soon, but I would really love this, because I can't be the only player that makes horrible mistakes and hits end turn really quick without thinking, and then goes, oh crap, I wish I'll undo that decision. Really hope that's in there. What location presented the most design challenges and why? Ben Brode said, it's not in the game yet, but he has a secret teaser for the location, mostly because nobody could figure out how it interacted with Iron Man until we redesigned it. So people have put in Nexus here, so that could be Nexus something of the Nexus of the something. But that's really interesting. I can't wait till this location comes out and we try to reverse engineer why Iron Man broke it so much. It must be something to do with doubling scores and maybe minusing scores. I don't know. I'm trying to guess how it would. What Iron Man does right now is essentially double your score at a location. So what kind of location would maybe double it again or something? I don't know. This is something people don't actually realize. They think that all new cards are a surprise, and it says, are there plans in the future for a collection total / see what your cards you're missing type of feature? Or is it going to stay more like it is now, where every new card is kind of surprise? You can actually toggle unowned cards, so you can see cards that you don't own that potentially you have seen before, maybe your opponent played them, and then there's also, you can see the sort of silhouettes of those cards as well. So there is a way sort of to see, you know, what you're missing out of your collection so far. How does matchmaking work? Is it based on collection level and cosmic cubes alone? So people are often wondering how you get matched with other people of your level, and Ben has said there's a bunch of complex stuff happening with matchmaking on the back end, and we are going to keep experimenting with it. So any info I give is going to be quickly out of date. Alright, so they're constantly optimizing how matchmaking is made right now. Obviously, as they filter more players in, that's probably going to change over time. So that kind of makes sense. Any plans to come out with a game guide explaining the keywords, order of operations, etc.? TY. Ben says, and this is very true, and I have a video on this, top 5 things that you probably didn't know about the game, but essentially Ben says, no plans, but this is the kind of thing community pages often fill the gaps on. Stay tuned to this channel and check out my other videos for all those kind of hidden things that maybe the tutorial doesn't give you an idea of. When new locations are created mid-game, for example because Westview or Scarlet Witch, do they have an increased chance of becoming a featured hot location? Or does the increased chance only apply to the initial 3? So right now, Camartage is a featured location and it appears in a lot of games. So the question is saying that when Scarlet Witch changes a location, does it have a higher percentage of becoming Camartage? Ben Brode has confirmed it says it's just to the initial 3. So those, if you change a location, it doesn't have a higher percentage of being the featured location at that time. Good info to know. This is a good question about like competitive tournaments and stuff. I haven't really thought that far ahead. Regarding tournaments and competitive, would you consider giving the players the option to ban certain locations? Also, rather than a conquest format, probably this game would be nice with side decking, 12 cards, and you can only have 3 side cards maybe. Ben makes a very good point when he says, lots to think about with competitive play. Although in a year, if we release one location a week, we'll be at 110 locations. Banning one seems like it would have a 1% impact, pretty negligible. That makes a lot of sense. Banning locations when it only has 1% chance of showing up. You know, you'd have to pick get 20, 30 ban options in a competitive game, and that probably is time consuming and absolutely, annoying, to be honest. More on the social side, would you ever add spectate mode to see your friends playing? Also, what about a replay mode so we can check our last games? Not always we are ready to record something. Those are both things we think would be rad to do someday. Again, the social elements of this game seem to be a kind of a longer term play. Right now, I'd say they're just get the game built, get it working, get people happy, get people enjoying it, and we'll work on the social aspects of it down the road. I know Trump mentioned y'all had an alpha tournament, so they're bringing up snapping, the mechanic of snapping to doubling and tripling the amount of cubes to win. And it says I didn't consider snapping aspect for competitive play. It makes competitive play a little bit more interesting because if you're playing for more cubes, is it not just a win-loss, or do you get a total number of cubes across the number of games? So Trump, obviously the big Hearthstone content creator and now Snap content creator, mentioned he had an alpha tournament. Can you talk about how that was run? Were matches to a certain number of cubes? And Ben said, hard to talk about spoiling upcoming features if he answers that question. So I think that's a yes. I think tournament play will be basically the number of cubes you win over a certain number of games, not necessarily if you won 2 games and lost 1, which I think is something to think about. Moving away from Ben Brode for a change, will we be able to re-roll daily missions at some point, like 1 per day or something? Steven said, this is something we want to look at. We've done a bunch of iterations prior to beta to make daily missions easily achievable, and we'll continue looking at it. Will region lock be a thing? That's one thing I've always hated about games like Hearthstone. Very hard to play with friends cross region and not a lot of incentive to. I also hate that about Hearthstone, that if you have a collection in EU and you want to play your American pal, you often can't play together because he's got his collection or she's got her collection in America, you've got your collection in EU, and you can't compete effectively because your American account has no cards. So cross-region, and Ben has confirmed to say, no, you should be able to play across regions unless there are regions where local laws make it unlikely. So if you live in a country that for some reason locks out other regions, well then, sorry, that's the law. But for the rest of us living in countries that don't have those laws, all good, we can play against our friends from around the world. Currently, collection progression is time-gated, as players can only obtain credits from daily missions in Season Pass. Would the developers consider a function where players can convert excess card boosters into credits? Maybe 2-to-1 ratio, like 2 boosters for 1 credit? I mean, I think that might be good. Ben has sort of hinted that we were talking about something in this space. Too early to tell what the right play is here, but there's certainly opportunities to improve things a bit. Okay. So they're definitely looking at that sort of time gating that a lot of players get frustrated about. Would you ever make available skins for the board or similar thing? I saw a fan made on Reddit that make the board cartoon style, and it's amazing. I don't understand that English, but I get what they're trying to say. They're basically saying, making custom boards. So Steven has actually said new boards is something we discuss a lot and have excitement about internally. We look forward to being able to do it at some point. So like maybe Gwent, for example, where you can purchase, custom boards that you want to play on. I think that's not a bad idea to, monetize the game that generally doesn't impact gameplay. I can definitely see that being a positive add to the game. This game has a few things in common with Gwent. Is a game that you took some inspiration for creating the game, if you can share, obviously. Ben said this is very embarrassing, but he hasn't played Gwent. I play a lot of Condottiere, which I heard is similar. I don't know Condottiere, to be honest with you. I tried to play it, but it didn't seem to be working when I gave it a shot. So that's interesting. Now, that's not to say that other members of his team have played Gwent and maybe draw that inspiration, but I think there's a lot of crossover from different card games leech in just because of the natural mechanics that are in card games, if that makes sense. It'd be like saying, a really, really bad analogy was like, oh, this deck has card draw in it. Hearts, it must have been inspired from Hearthstone or Magic or something like that. They're just base mechanics that exist in a lot of card games. To say one inspired the other. Anyway, that's my hot take on that specific comment. This is an interesting one because Rockslide shuffles 2 useless rocks while Korg shuffles a rock and not useless. Is this because Korg is an optimist? And Ben Brode said, we're going to make these match in a future patch. Yeah, because you have rocks that are the exact same stats, but one is useless and one isn't. So whether that was just an oversight or something, I don't know. What is the team's opinion stance on data mining and third-party sites tools in general? This is an interesting one because there's already some third-party tools and sites out there. I haven't seen much data mining going on, but Ben Brode has said, gosh, I sure wish people wouldn't data mine, but it would take us so much time away from rad features for us to do anything to stop it. Hopefully nobody peaks, maintain the surprises, and I'm all for this stance. I generally hate secret reveals and data mine leaks and stuff like that. I know people love to do it. I don't know why people like to spoil stuff for themselves or spoil stuff for other people. It's just beyond me. I don't understand it, but you know, that's just me. Do cards keep on reveal buffs when bouncing back to the hand via beast shuffling into the deck via lockjaw? Yes. Buffs always stay no matter what. I like that feature. In kind of Hearthstone, I know from experience, if you have a card that's super buffed and your opponent bounces it back into your hand, it generally loses all of those stats. This way that buffs stay, I kind of like that feature. Did you take any inspiration in Blood Bowl Team Manager, or you just arrived at a similar mechanics? Ben says he hasn't even heard of that game, neither have I, but again, I think this goes back to my previous point that a lot of games have the same mechanics just because they're the same style of game, not because they've heard of each other. You know, there's only so much creativity you can have when your game is designed around card games, for example. Okay, so this is a very good question for people who are not available, who don't have access to the beta. Hi devs, if a player fails to get the Hulk portrait or any of the rank rewards avatar portraits before the rank season reset, will they have another chance to obtain it? But what he said is during beta, all the seasonal rewards will be obtainable in global, so the global release. However, in the seasons after global, such rewards as the rank 100 reward and season pass exclusives will not be obtainable again after the season is over. So that is good news for those of you who don't have access to the beta but don't want to miss out on content. It will all be there for you when you join, but once the game goes global, stuff is gone if you don't get it. Who did the Snap voice? The Snap announcer is currently temp audio. There is a special new announcer voice coming in the next update. We'll talk more about it then. Oh, cool. Hire me, I'll do the Snap audio. And to follow up on that, have you considered any kind of customizable sound options like new music packs or Snap announcers? So kind of like Heroes of the Storm, where you can choose a different announcer for the game. Chris said, that's a really cool idea. I have made a note for myself on this one. Thanks for the suggestion, keep it coming. I mean, that's another, like, you know, maybe a cosmetic thing that you can buy. You know, buy Ben Brode doing the announcement. Maybe you could buy your favorite content creators' announcements of the game and I would receive a percentage. Second Dinner, you're welcome for that idea. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that's enough for now. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.